a special day by the name of Zois Chanukah. This is Chanukah. The simple explanation for this is because throughout the days of Chanukah we read about the 12 leaders of the tribes who were bringing offerings, the Chanukah Mizbeach, for the first altar of the sanctuary in the desert. And every day we read for each one of the days, but on this day, the 8th day, by Yom HaShmini, for them bringing Chanukah Mizbeach, we read to the end of the Parsha. And the end of the Parsha on the 12th day describes Zois Chanukah Mizbeach. This is the dedication of the altar, the first sanctuary built, which expresses the purpose of the people of Israel is to dedicate their lives to Hashem. So this is no longer the 8th day, this was mentioned after the 12th day, where it describes the summary, Zois Chanukah Mizbeach. In fact, there are two significant expressions. Zois Chanukah Mizbeach b'yom himashech oto, on the day when the altar was dedicated. And then after it says, Zois Chanukah Mizbeach acharei himashach b'so. Then it's repeated, and this is the dedication of the altar after it was dedicated. So here there's the concept of the 8th day, the day when it was dedicated, but the 8th is a concept described also by Sukkot, the 8th day, by Yom HaShmini Atzeret Yirachem. On that the Ramban makes the commentary. We have celebrated Sukkot on the 8th day, Shmini Atzeret. It's a day to keep for the whole year the concept of the 7 days of Sukkot. Here also, the concept is we've dedicated the altar, but the important thing is how it affects the future. So there's a parallel to Chanukah. And Chanukah also, we've concluded with Chanukah today, but the importance of Chanukah is how it affects the future, not just that we celebrate today, but we've got to take the lesson of Chanukah for the whole year, which is also expressed in a cryptic statement in the Gemara, which discusses Chanukah. And then it says, Rogel B'nei, someone who is accustomed to keep the light, then his children will become Talmidei Chachamim. So Rashi says, Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah, Rashi says, and others also, it means who keeps lights burning, because the light represents Ner L'Ragli Devarecha, the lamp is the guide for my feet wherever I walk, all the days of the year, and wherever I will be, I will take the light of God's teaching to guide me. The Ner is the mitzvah, all in Tibati, the Pasuk continues, it's the light to give me the correct outlook upon life. As we've been discussing this concept, that the significance of Chanukah is not only in itself, it's also in how we follow. So Rabbeinu Hananel has an unusual explanation, Rogel Ner. He says it means Ner Chanukah. This is mentioned in connection with the whole description in the Gemara concerning the laws of light and the Chanukah lights. So people ask the question, what do you mean Rogel B'ner? You have to light the Chanukah lights during Chanukah. Afterwards, there's no more in Chanukah. So how do you say Rogel? I mean, it's true, it's a very good sign, you can say, because Jews all over the world, even if they don't keep anything else of Judaism, but especially in the Western world, they nearly all keep Chanukah. Sometimes Jews are there to keep Chanukah by the Xmas tree. They live in a non-Jewish area, and everybody lights an Xmas tree, those who believe in it, even those who don't believe in it. But they all light it, it's a celebration for the whole family. And you find, at least when I used to go to the States, so sometimes went on before, around the area at the time of Hanukkah, so you'd find in nearly all the subways they had a Hanukkah light, and the Xmas tree also. So of course, some Jews unfortunately do both. They say, well, I can be an American citizen, but I don't want to forget my Judaism. So they make Hanukkah light as well. Some only have the Xmas tree. But the majority, they'll say, well, if they have the Xmas tree, I'll have a Hanukkah. And they, of course, in America, this is accepted because, you know, the president has a Hanukkah lighting, I think, in his residence or in the White House, I don't know where. It's accepted in all the big non-Jewish places, but they also they mention Hanukkah. And they give to Christians they give an Xmas blessing, and to the Jews they give a Hanukkah blessing. So this is on Hanukkah itself. So the lesson is Horogel b'Hanukkah. What does it mean? That every year puts on Hanukkah lights. You'll have Tefillin Talmidei Chachamim. That would be very nice. Everyone who participates in a day in most of the towns in the world. So the Chabad, they put up a huge Chanukah, and there are probably millions of Jews who at least they participate to some extent in this celebration of the Chanukah that's put up in the town square, which has also a source in the Gemara that someone who doesn't have a Chanukah in his home, but he sees the Chanukah light, then he can also say bracha if he sees it. So at least they see the Chanukah light. But Rogel, generally speaking, does not mean every year, it means every day or most of the days. So this we can understand according to what I said now. That the purpose is for Rogel, he does not finish on Zois Chanukah, but he carries on all the year round to take the important lesson. And the really important lesson in Bezois, we already spoke about it in the previous shiurim. The best way to understand this is with the significance of the Yom HaShmini, of the 8th day. What does it really mean? And to go to this, both the first verse of Moses. So Yeshua si l'chono el shabeya tikon beis tefilosi v'sham no el shabeya. When we say Chanukah HaMizbeach, in other words, Chanukah. Why does it say it's the Chanukah of the altar? Sure, it's the Chanukah of the menorah. No, it's also the Chanukah of the altar, as we read this morning. And we have the Parsha Shemini, that's in chapter 9 of Vayikra. Vayim b'yom hashmini. On the 8th day, says like this, the previous text in the Chumash, in Vayikra, speaks about the 7 days of the dedication. What happened then at the end of the previous Sidra? Aaron and his sons were instructed to remain at the tent of meeting for 7 full days, whilst Moshe performed the inauguration service, which began on the 23rd of Adar. Each day for 7 days, Moshe erected the tabernacle, performed the entire service himself, and assembled the tabernacle where the service was done. The inauguration period climaxed with the consecration of Aaron and his sons as Kohanim on the 8th day. From that moment onward, only Kohanim were eligible to perform the tabernacle service. This chapter begins on the first day of Nisan, the 8th day of the inauguration service. On that day, the tabernacle was erected permanently, and the Kohanim assumed their new role. This Siddur describes the special service the consecrated Kohanim performed on the day they achieved their new status. So this is the significance of the 8th day, especially. And this is also described in what we read this morning. By Yom HaShmini, that was really the day of Chanukah, the main day of Chanukah Mizbeach, when the Kohanim took over from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu performed the service on the Mizbeach, also the first 7 days. When was the Kohen dedicated? On the 8th day. And this goes together with a statement which we read at the end of today's reading from the Chumash, where after the 12 days during which each tribe brought their offerings, and on the 8th day, we know the beginning, Chanukah Mizbeach, was started by Moshe Rabbeinu, when every day he set up the tabernacle, and he was the one who did all the service, also the service on the altar. On the 8th day, he gave it over to Aaron, and Aaron had to start, and that was the start of the Kohanim taking over. So, also, it turns out, according to this, that this special day, the Yom HaShmini, is connected with the concept of bringing the world of nature under the service of Hashem in 7 days, and then bringing the miraculous level of supernature, above nature, on the 8th day. That's what it represents, according to what we learned in the Maral. The Maral even explains, Chazal, the sages say, the Kohen Gadol was inaugurated on that day, Aaron, and the Kohen Gadol represents the 8th dimension. In other words, the Kohen Gadol is the one who does the service in the Holy of Holies, which is also the 8th dimension. It's the 8th light, it's the Aron. It's the hidden light of the Torah Shebechtav and the Luchot. And also it's a Bezot Yavo Aaron Kodesh. With this, Aaron will go into the most holy place. Bezot is B'zchut HaMilah, because the Milah is called Zot Beriti. This is my covenant which I make between you and myself. Hashem said to Avraham Avinu, you and your seed will become part of the supernatural divine providence through the merit of Milah. Milah is on the 8th day. This is the concept also of dedicating an offering from an animal. You've got to wait till the 8th day, till it's fit for an offering. And this is why the Kohen Gadol has 8 styles of garments. Because the 8th dimension represents supernature. And this explains to us why was it that the Greeks, specifically, of all the mitzvot, they were against Shabbat and they were against Milah, they were against sanctification of the new moon by the sages. These were the 3 things, Chodesh, Shabbat, or Milah. So Milah we understand. Why? Because Greek civilization at its best does believe in the God of nature, does believe in the human mind at its highest level, not being submerged in gross materialism, but it believes in certain principles of the Noachide code, of civilization, and there were books written on morality, on ethics, and on scientific investigation, use of the mind, more important than worship of the body. But what they represent, for us, it's darkness. Why? Because, as we say also, still today, in the Thanksgiving prayer, Lashkicham Toratecha. They wanted the people of Israel to forget that the Torah is the divine word above nature, which also gives us commandments which we can't understand. That's why why is it emphasized the chukim? Because the mishpatim, they say, well, many of the judgments which are directed from the human mind, they make good sense to us as well. But the higher level, that there's a level which is above the human mind, that was difficult for them to accept. That's what they oppose, they try to destroy. But still today also, because Greek civilization has indeed, at its higher level, brought many blessings to millions of people, of the nations of the world. But they have even brought an influence upon Jews throughout the generations, long after the time of the Maccabees until today, to believe in the complete perfection of the human body, therefore they oppose the Milah, or to accept any of the laws as being min hashamayim, as being laws which are given from the transcendental mind of God. The whole concept of the chukim, and the aspect of chukim which goes into nearly all the mitzvot, even into the mishpatim. Mishpatim also contain aspects which are chukim, which are not so simple to understand. They're very deep. But a person goes with simple, more practical aspects of justice. Some things seem to be, for example, the constant prohibitions of any form of bias. That's not considered by the nation of the world as disqualifying judges. For example, what's happening here in Israel, until today it goes. There's so many principles written in the Chumash and that's described in the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which teaches us that no aspect of personal bias should ever be used by a judge for any purpose. And today, I mean, what can be considered a falsification of the human mind? I mean, this, it's been said, the law is an ass, the famous, the law is under an ass, it goes for stupidity. I mean, how can you take a state witness, I mean, somebody who's suspected of the same crime, well, there's a certain group who are accused of bribery, for having taken money from one of the sides, and what do? They take as one of the people to give evidence who is involved in the crime and who should also receive a prison time as punishment, and they'll say, if you will give testimony against the others, then you won't get the same punishment. You'll be freed from prison. That's bribe. That's certainly bribery arranged by the court. There's no greater bribery than that. And the irony is that these concepts have been accepted by the Supreme Court of Justice in Israel, instead of following the Jewish concept that such a person is entirely invalid as a witness, because he's certainly receiving great benefit from giving testimony against the others who together with him were involved in the crime. And in fact, the longest case of the Supreme Court of Justice in Israel is this situation. I mean, it's ridiculous. So you see that even the Mishpatim Bal Yadaum, because the Supreme Court of Justice made up primarily of justices who have followed and learned the laws that apply in many Western legal systems. And some of them are very good and logical, and in fact there's many that are taken from Jewish concepts. You find in America there are many studies on this and the greatness of Jewish law. But to go and apply here the worst laws that they've taken is unbelievable. But that's what's happened. The Jews of the old have become Hellenists. just like in those times, in many ways. So these are very important concepts. Chukei Rotzonecha. The concept is the independent and even divine source of all the law. Torah Sheba'al Peh still has its divine source in what's written in the Chumash. They have to use on the basis of those principles, they have to use their minds to the greatest scholars and saints in order to apply the laws of the Torah to the changing circumstances of different times and different places. So that's one of the major significances of the eighth dimension. So I'd like to connect this with the following. So is Chanukah. I'm following on the various teachings of the Maral. So b'zois yeva aren b'tchus hamila, the same concept. The Milah, even today, there are complete secularists in the world, and in Europe there have been governments who've said we've got to ban Milah because they think, well, why should we do any form of improvement to the way in which the human being has been created by Hashem, a question already raised by the Hellenist philosophers when they had discussions with the sages of the oral tradition. They raised the same problem, and they were given this answer, that Hashem, the idea is, the purpose of man is to improve his whole self. And as a sign of the covenant with Hashem, to give up, it's to a certain extent, one of his basic instincts, the libido of the human being has to be subjected, as we say in our praise in the Mov, please help us to bend our natural inclination to become one who will serve God himself. That's the purpose behind it. So this is something which we as Jews have held fast to at all times, both in the fulfillment of it Milah and also in what it represents in Milat Halev, in dedicating our heart. Now, you know, the Roman destruction of the temple and the persecution also of the Jews was accompanied at the same time also by another aspect which developed in Roman and post-Roman civilization. Because even in the time of Rome, there were very many of the non-Jewish, Jewish Romans and others in the whole empire who studied the Bible with the Septuagint, and many of them absorbed many of the teachings of the Bible, but in Christianity it became also intermingled with Hellenistic concepts. And then Christianity, and even those who were not Christians, but their lifestyle was based primarily upon these two movements. Matthew Arnold and other great thinkers in general literature, they speak about the double basis of Western civilization, coming from the Hebrew sources and coming from the Greek-Roman sources. And certainly the Greek-Roman source also contributed a great deal to the development of higher thought, of morality, but certainly of scientific investigation. But still, we as Jews always say the way in which the Romans entirely destroyed the temple and didn't want any further Jewish name connected, neither with Jerusalem. They're the ones who said it was called the place Palestina, instead of calling it even Judea. And they say, Jerusalem et Perdita, that means that Jerusalem has been entirely destroyed. So where's that represented? By the Arch of Titus. The Arch of Titus in Rome, which has on it also, engraved there, to describe the Arch of Triumph, how Rome triumphed over Jerusalem, and they have their picture of the menorah. Because it's surely not what the menorah looked like. It's certainly not the base of it. The base of it contains images of dragons and other things, which would never been allowed in the temple. And there's awkward discussions, what actually did it look like? And there's a lot to say, a lot of sources for it, which are developed a lot in recent times. The application to the menorah of the Beit HaMikdash, it didn't have round branches, semicircle. No, it wasn't a semicircle. They were straight, coming out. That is why all the Lubavitch, Chanukah, they go and make sure that the branches should go out straight and not round like we've been accustomed to. The round concept is the one how it was depicted on the Arch of Titus. However that may be, there's no discussion. Some say maybe it was round, some say it was straight, but certainly it was not the same. And in fact, there's a whole discussion today, because when you go down to the Kotel today, you see a beautiful golden menorah. Yeah, I think you mean it's solid gold. There's a whole halachic discussions if it was similar or dissimilar to the Chanukah in the Beit HaMikdash. But I want to tell you an episode like this, that all through the years, and even until today, Jews do not go through the arch. It's well known. They made even a separate place for the Jews to go through a small I think it was a small shul they allowed them to build there, and that instead of, if they have to go in that area, Jews throughout the ages would not go through that arch. They did not want to accept that this was a triumph, and the truth is, there's nothing much left of all the Roman buildings all over the world. They nearly all ruins, but the ruins still exist. So, but the menorah, we know, represents the eternal light of the Jewish people. So there's an episode here. I'll give you it directly from how it took place. I had the zchus to be very close to the Ponevezh Rav. The Ponevezh Rav, he had a big kehillah and yeshiva in Lithuania. He was also a member of the Lithuanian parliament, highly regarded. And then when the Nazis came, they destroyed nearly all the communities. He was able to find his way to Eretz Israel in the middle of the war, having lost his wife and children, his community, and all the communities had been destroyed, and he was left over. So he decided he's going to build the Yeshiva's Ponevezh to keep the light of Torah burning. And when he was collecting for the yeshiva, I used to help him also when he came to England, to Manchester. And the person I've met him quite often on our different appeal journeys, is Dr. Rothschild. He was a medical doctor who was planning to build a hospital in Breivik, which he was able to do. And in his earlier years, they often used to meet him as well on our common trips. And he accompanied the Ponevezh Rav when he was in Europe and when he was in Italy. So one day he gets a phone call from Ponevezh Rav in the night, and he says, "Please, I want to meet you in Rome. We've got to go to some place before we go back. Tomorrow we go back to Eretz Israel. Before we go back, we must go in Rome to a certain place. I want you to come with me." So he joined him, and he came to Arch of Titus, no much around, and then he said like this, I'm going to hear quoted verbatim. I remember it more. So he goes in and shakes his hand up to Titus and says, "You Titus, you thought that when you made your Arch of Triumph, that's the end of Jerusalem being and existing, there'd be no more temple, there won't be the Jews, we would banish the Jews from there, any Jews who are left have to become more or less slaves to the Roman Empire. So, of you there's nothing left. But it made a menorah there. A menorah represents the eternal light of the Jewish people. And I'm telling you that we continue kindling the light of the menorah, and it will go on until the final redemption. And we will continue to see the light of the Torah will spread to the whole of the people of Israel, and from the people of Israel it will come to the whole world. I felt he had to say that before because it brought him to Rome before he goes back to his yeshiva. So this is really Zois Chanukah. This is the great principle of keeping alive that memory. So I think these are very deep and important lessons for the absorbing the essence of this day, and above all, that it should be something that will be in our minds for the whole year, because it's also interesting in this connection that, I mean, there's no question in all literature, the world, it lies deep in the psyche of the human being that there are areas of life where in a person he feels that he's in an environment of great light, of inner light. And when a person is involved in darkness and a lot of difficulties, then if he can get his mind and his heart to feel the light of Hashem, then he'll be able to overcome it, even in the biggest darkness. It's the fact that darkness is connected more with the situation, even when you feel happy and you feel a bit of light. But if that happiness is just a physical one, it goes away quickly, it's transient, and when it's all gone, there's nothing. It's only darkness. But if a person keeps alive inside himself the light, as we call panecha, the light of the face of Hashem. In fact, when we speak about in Tefillah, Bo panecha natata lanu, you've given us, it says 7 qualities. It's obviously corresponding to the 7 lights of the candelabrum. Bo panecha natata lanu. Then we say natata lanu, and we mention 5 qualities: rakah, vracha, rachmim, v'chaim, v'shalom. It's the 7 qualities which Hashem has given us. All these qualities bring light constantly to the human being, including chesed, peace. So we've always got to strive for the light, and know there is there's a light all the time. We've just got to connect ourselves to that light. When we say Shivit Hashem Negdi Tamed, that I've always placed Hashem in front of me, we can't really describe Hashem in any terms, but we can describe Him as a light of love. And those who give testimony today, that's how they describe it. They say they enter into a different planet where they feel a light that you don't feel in life, in a material life. You don't see such a light. It's a light which is a light of love. So that light of love can be ignited through learning Torah. So this is so many Pesukim in Tehillim and other places that teaches this. And that's what's given light to people even with the greatest darkness. And so, if we just think to ourselves all the suffering that goes on even until today for the Jewish people all over the world, that they're the target of so many different attacks to destroy us, we take strength in connecting ourselves with that light. And that's what Chazal say, that ultimately the fire of Yaakov transformed into the light of Yosef, will cause all the materialists who want to destroy us to disappear. Or what we hope is even better, that it's not they who need to disappear, it's their ideas. We say, all the wicked ones in the world shall turn to you. And then they'll see, as it says in the prophets, darkness covers the earth and the nations, but Hashem will shine over you. And let us hope that will happen and shine over us, and they will also come to shine over all human beings in our time. Amen.
Amen.
Time for a question.
Any questions? Okay. Regarding the kindling of the lights, I fully understand the concept of increasing in holiness 1, 2, 3, etc. However, the light lasted for 8 days. Not 1 day or 2 days or 3 days by each candle. Therefore, to me, at least logically, it would seem appropriate to celebrate all 8 days, to light 8 candles every day. Your response?
Okay, if you answer this. Yes?
I think it was supposed to last just the 1 day, but it lasted the 8 days. Is that correct?
Yes.
So why don't we light 8 candles every day to celebrate the full 8 days?
Because if we go back to reenact the miracle that took place at that time, so they reenacted as it took place. There was enough oil for 1 day, yeah?
Right.
That's the first day that we found this pure oil. On the second day, it lit miraculously. According to different explanations how that can happen. Either the usual explanation is that since they needed 8 days to prepare fresh pure oil in a natural way, as they used to do, so therefore they knew to start with. They said, what's the point if we light it if we're going to light it, all the oil 1 day, we won't have anything left for the other 7 days till we can get fresh oil. So they were sensible and they said, let's do as follows. We can't put in oil into the candelabrum as we generally do. To fill up, it should go and last till the morning. And we need 8 days to get fresh oil. So they only put into the goblets, the lamp, to the candelabrum, they put in 1/8 of the oil. They thought, okay, it's gonna light. Instead of light, it can only keep a light. It's not like today that when you use the Chanukah light, it goes out after a few hours. No, in the Beit HaMikdash, it's all going back to Beit HaMikdash, they had to put in enough oil to last till the morning. So on the first day, they put in enough oil to last for 1/8 of the night. So they have each night they will put in 1/8. It would be smaller light. It wouldn't light till the morning as it's supposed to, until they have fresh oil, and then they can put enough oil for the whole night. Natural oil, which they found. But this was supernatural. So they said, okay, it's a miracle we found this oil. So let's go and put in just 1/8. They put in 1/8. The more they saw it was a light all night. So although it was not enough oil, there's more. So they said, oh, let's go on doing that. Every night they put in 1/8, and every night it had the new miracle. Therefore, every night was a new miracle. If you're going to put on 8 each night, you don't see this aspect of the new miracle. That's as far as the physical aspect is concerned. That answers that question, Bishart. as far as the spiritual aspect is concerned, it also teaches us. Since we say ner Torah, ner mitzvah v'Torah or, that we've got to know that one of the principles of kindling the light of Torah, which means to teach Torah to others, even if you've only got, let's say, let's look at it, concept of kindling a light. The sages means also you have a little bit of Torah, go and light it up for others to make the link of Torah Shabbat Peh. So you've got to teach others Torah. What happens if you only got person say, well, what's the point? Why should I go and teach one student? Only one student comes to the shir. So we taught the lesson. No, you start with one student and teach him in a good way, and you'll see you'll be able to grow. Second day, try and get a second student, and second student might get a third student. You might even get 8 students to come to your shir, if you're fortunate enough. If you do, first if you teach well enough. So that's part of the lesson behind it. Okay, now you will be the shir of Rav Zitzman.
Follow-up questions.
Huh?
Next
time.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, please.